Good afternoon, colleagues. I think we can start now. So, today we have a difficult task. Our session is one of the last ones. So, we have to draw your attention. And the question is, why does FinTech need clouds? But some people may think that it's pretty obvious. Everyone needs clouds, but these services, how can FinTech use that? So let's talk about that. So today we are going to give floor to Vyacheslav Tsyganov, Vice President Tinkoff Bank, Alexander Sorokoumov, SberCloud, Oleg Koverznev, Yandex.Cloud, David Martirosov, Rostelecom, Raffensperger, Huawei, Technical Director, Huawei Enterprise Storage Solutions, and Dmitry Golub, Balance Platform, his CTO, Technical Director. So, about interesting things and clouds. A question to Vyacheslav Tsyganov. Tinkoff Bank is one of the most advanced banks in the country. So, what services are in the cloud and what services you prefer to keep in-house, outside cloud? And by the way, thank you very much for the advertisement, for your slogan. So thank you very much. That was really successful and a really interesting video. Well, thank you and good evening. I'm happy to see that there are some people in the room. I really like one expression, and people say that it was Michael Dell who said that. It goes like this: cloud is not a place, but it's a tool. So, cloud services that we are currently working on, these are the services and the approach that helps us design apps. And it's about advantages that are embedded in the cloud. What technologies used, what providers are used, microservices, you name it. But all of this is very important. It's really helpful, but the thing is this culture, this paradigm for new services. What are we doing? What is our approach? All new services that you can see that our clients are using, they are cloud-based. So take Tinkoff Investments, for example, one of the recent ones, or lifestyle banking, voice services. These are cloud-based apps. Some services that we have, they're based on public clouds like Amazon or Google. And it's more about advertisement in the internet or Tinkoff stories. If you see content, to generate this content and to show it, we are using Google products. What is outside the cloud? To my deepest regret, ABS or core banking. I don't know why, but that's what we have. It's a global trend. And cloud core banking providers or card processing, for example, in Europe, it stimulated development of FinTech. If you take a look at all the banks, they used such solutions. Unfortunately, in our case, we don't have this trend, at least not now. So nothing new and no new players, unfortunately. Apart from that, I think our market is developing at a good pace, and my colleagues here can confirm that. But we didn't have many cloud providers, but I'm sure they can tell you more. Well, thank you very much, Vyacheslav. Dmitry, balance platform. Could you tell us about services that are in demand, that are popular among clients? What services do you provide to banks? Yes, balance platform has a service. We have scoring, we try to track clients, we verify documents, we print documents, we verify documents later on after that, and collection services and electronic archive. All these services are very popular. They are in high demand. And so we work with mortgage, and we have around 7%. We have many services, and we keep developing them. Okay, lending, and this is, I don't know, this is scary, because I know that this can be used for obtaining credit rating and loan issuance. But I'm sure that people are concerned about that. Well, yes, our clients are banks. And for banks, we are the cloud. Banks don't want to deal with clouds. They don't want to deal with hardware. They're interested in business itself. They're interested in crediting, lending. So we are in charge of loan issuance, and we can launch these services. So we need, I don't know, about 2 months or so. And then we can provide additional support. Okay, one more question. Do you have any solutions for banks? Because not every bank is prepared to use the cloud with data. But you said you are very active in this area. So how does it actually work, and how security, information security is dealt with? Well, we comply with legislation 100%, FSB and government's decree number 19. And as for safety and security, we work with Group AB. And how do we launch this? Well, we have several areas, several dimensions, if you like. So we can test, and we have testing field, we have pre-production and production itself. But we know how to do this quickly, and we know how to launch products into production. However, what about information security? Does it mean that you have to enter negotiations with security service of the banks that you work with? Or when does it happen? During tests? I'm asking this because it's an open secret that going to production for many banks, it may be challenging. It means a lot of tests. And going to production means that it has been tested and verified and approved. Because without that, you can't go to production. And if this is not in place, this may lead to unwanted results. Well, we are trying to start working with information security issues at an early stage. And we engage both our security and banks' security function. And we have good to go from information security department at an early stage. Okay, thank you very much. Your service is mostly for big banks or small banks? Our solutions are of interest to banks who want to launch a service really quickly. We have small banks and big banks. For example, quite recently we have launched mortgage service for Alpha Bank. Thank you. Colleagues from Telecom, could you please share what kind of services are you providing, to whom, and what type of cloud services are in higher demand? And once again, for whom? Good evening, colleagues. A few words about our cloud business and how it all started. Several years ago, we started consolidating all the cloud products that we have. It was based on our subsidiary, so this process ended 6 months ago. So now we are a cloud provider. It means that we are working with all services, B2C, B2B, B2G, G government. And here we provide SAS, Wink service, smart home. We work a lot with B2B and with the government. At the same time, when we're getting feedback from the market, we know that government, for example, and big sectors, cloud services, standard cloud services, are not enough for them anymore. For example, they say, we want ES, but that doesn't happen that often. Our clients need something more. They need a portfolio. They need ES, PS, information security for channels, and even consulting. So we are the provider who can provide cloud services and an integrator. That's what we are. As for the segment that we're talking about today, FinTech and startups in particular, when we were developing products for them, we were trying to understand what were their challenges. Let's say there's a startup. They want to attract an investor. Look at the US. All startups and FinTechs, they start with the cloud. And there are 3 reasons for that. Reason number 1, they want to use cutting-edge technologies, and that's what we're offering. Copyright, engine, microservices. Problem number 2 that they're faced with is the cost of a ticket. It's really hard to attract an investor when you come and say, we have a brilliant idea, we want to test this hypothesis, to test this idea. Let's take 6 months and develop infrastructure to test that. But that's silly, isn't it? So that's reason number 2 why FinTech and FinTech startups go cloud. Reason number 3, FinTech deals with data, client data, personal data, and no doubt when it gets to information security and protection tools, it's very challenging, it's very difficult for a company. That's why they have providers, cloud providers. So what are we providing for FinTech? That's what I've just mentioned. Thank you. You said something about startups, that cloud technology is more popular and of more interest for them. But companies that already have something like that, they don't come to you, but at the same time, you can provide security services. But what about resources, engineering? Could you elaborate a little bit on this disbalance? Well, we have a lot of clients. They're willingly coming to us, and I think it's the most fast expanding market, and I'm talking about private clouds. Their demands are a little more sophisticated. They need more sophisticated, more complex services. So purely cloud is not of interest to them. Did I answer your question? Meaning for big companies, these are hybrid services, and private cloud and public services, that's what you're talking about. Well, yes, consulting and integration services. And for startups, it's a whole portfolio, including security. Yes, exactly. Okay, thank you very much. Our colleagues from Huawei, Ron, could you please tell us what kind of services are in demand in China? And are there any services that you're providing for financial sector and outside China, services in Europe, in the US and Russia, for example?
So Huawei has a complete
cloud environment. So that's both private cloud and public cloud, and hybrid, which is having some of the cloud on your own data center and some in public cloud. And this is all one unified set of software. So what we found in China is that some of the biggest banks like ICBC, which is the largest bank maybe in the world, has needed to be able to quickly respond to the demands of moving to the electronic payments and being able to handle huge surges. And so what they've done is handled the core parts within their own data center, but used the public cloud as the way to handle peaks. And I think it was mentioned earlier by Tinkoff that one of the challenges is with the core banking that may still be on mainframes. And this is true across almost the whole world, including in China, where they have core banking. They're still trying to figure out how to move that to the cloud. And so one of the key capabilities that we have is to be able to integrate their existing environments along with a cloud so that they can start to develop new kinds of services very quickly, and as people talk about DevOps or microservices, but then be able to still keep the core of their existing systems, which many times are controlled by the regulator. They've been certified. You know, nobody ever wants to touch the core. Don't break the core, otherwise, you know, the whole bank goes under. And so by being able to integrate services across the private cloud within their data center, as well as the public cloud capabilities for peak demands, also for new kinds of things like doing training for AI models, that sort of thing, having across all of that will give the bank the flexibility to respond like they're a FinTech without having to completely restructure all of their capabilities.
Все-таки Huawei с точки зрения...
And as for Huawei, in terms of providing services for such companies, is it already off-the-shelf services, ready-made services? At what level then? Is it infrastructure or platform which could be provided by Huawei in the form of ready-made cloud services inside such big financial institutions, creating clouds based on Huawei? What is it? What is it more?
It is that we have all of the layers of the capability. So we have the infrastructure as a service, we have the platform as a service, we have big data as a service, we have AI capabilities as a service. We have some more finished solutions around recommendation engines, fraud detection, but we work together with our customers and with our partners to be able to have the complete solution that the financial institution is looking for.
Could you comment, just 1 year ago, we were in the headquarters of Huawei, and they showed us solutions which are implementing big data technologies. Do you have any practical references and practical examples of using such services in the cloud?
So some of our examples around big data are China Merchants Bank, which is one of the most innovative banks in China, built a new fraud detection platform on top of the big data. There were some challenges with that because most big data platforms can't really respond in real time. But of course, for fraud detection, you must do that. And so we made a number of optimizations along with them to be able to do that. ICBC is using our big data platform for everything from data warehouse to customer recommendations, for customer attention and that sort of thing, and also for things like log analysis. So once you start to put all of the information into a unified data lake, there are so many applications that you can do related to just how do you run IT better, how do you do security better, because you can look for anomalies that you didn't see before because you have all of this information, as well as doing things like fraud detection and customer retention marketing, stop inundating people with offers they're not likely to accept, and be able to target the people for the offers that you have in a more intelligent fashion.
And apart from Chinese banks, do you have any practical applications beyond the borders of your country?
So we have globally quite a large number of customers in the financial industry. In Latin America with BBVA, in Europe with some of the large names that you would certainly recognize, and it's different kinds of things. It's like being able to move their call centers and their PC kinds of applications into the cloud. It's the being able to utilize the cloud for new kinds of applications. We have some. One of the challenges with trying to integrate different pieces is we have a number of banks that are starting to take real-time feeds from Twitter, from Facebook, to not only look at things like the sentiment analysis, what do people think of them, but also to start to build social graphs, be able to look at how their customers interact with each other, to be able to understand more about how to target them successfully, how to give them credit without making it, come in and fill out this huge stack of paper. So in Latin America, in Africa, in a number of places in Europe, we have banking and finance customers that are using these capabilities.
Спасибо.
Thank you very much. Dmitry, could you comment from the point of view of your vision, what would be the perspective and what kind of services will be needed to your client? Where do you see trends in the area of these technologies? Look, we see trends in the speeding up of the crediting process. If previously it was okay to provide credits, mortgages during days, now it's absolutely unacceptable, and services will move towards cutting the decision-making time to 1 hour and even less. This is the most important trend which we see. Could you explain what is the advantage and benefit of your product versus in-house banking solutions? Because your solutions mean some costs, and could you comment also on that and your vision, why people should come to you? I do not agree with the statement that these are additional costs. All costs for integration with other services and for realization and implementation of all technical processes are on our side. And bank does not invest anything. He doesn't need to buy hardware, doesn't need to employ deployers. We provide crediting as a service and even provide support, but it's hardly free. Well, in terms of coming to you, well, but it could be different tariff options, but we like the model when pay as a use. It means that we earn only where bank does, and normally, as we call it, a result fee, we take an interest rate for disbursement. How bank uses your service? Well, just bank is using your service, and just all of a sudden, maybe, I don't know, what do you have in tariffs, in terms of tariffs, maybe it's a monthly fee, and all of a sudden bank couldn't pay a month or all data go to your public cloud or to your private cloud. Bank just waves a hand, say bye to the data, and that's all, or what? Well, the bank tried to work with you, understood how the mechanism worked, decided to expand it in-house. How this implementation of the already existing solutions could be organized. I have to note that all data belong to the bank and not to us. bank has absolute possession of the data. We do not share, we do not touch it, because the data absolutely secure. The data of the bank is absolutely safe and secure. It's possible that bank can refuse to use our services, and then the data belongs to the bank then, and the bank can get it. Yes, of course. Alexander, can I ask you to comment? Colleagues told us about their service, and obviously Sberbank has maybe one of the biggest services in the crediting models and other services for individuals and legal entities. How do you see it? Are you ready to move to cloud in providing and provide some opportunities for external customers? We already touched upon the topic of cloud services, and in principle we touched upon the layers of clouds, and I wanted to discuss a little bit more. Here we mix up the philosophy and services, the cloud philosophy and cloud services. Historically, we mean that cloud means two things: optimization and automation. This is a story about efficiency, speed, and flexibility. Cloud model as a business and the value which is generated. IaaS, PaaS, and other abbreviations were mentioned. IaaS, infrastructure layer, when we help client, not necessarily from financial industry, from any industry, to focus, to be abstract from physical infrastructure and to focus on the fact that they now can think not years ahead, because every scaling process in Russia takes from 4 to 8 months. Well, normally it's from 4 to 8. It can be even longer. But infrastructure as a service, it takes 3, 5, 10 minutes. If we speak about platform services, it helps to the developer to be away not only from the development but also from the platform, and use and reuse the set of platform-based services. If in IaaS it is 20 to 30 products, in platform 120 products, 150 global providers. SaaS service, you present SAS service, as I understand. It is a finished and ready-made service for a bank. This means thousands and dozens of thousands of different vendors and different solutions. So, answering to your question, we as a bank are ready to provide infrastructure services and basic set of platform services, SAS, banking SAS in form of credit models. I'm a little bit staggered. We are not. We won't be able to provide it because this is our unique expertise, which we accumulated in our core business, in our banking business, and I'm not sure that the bank. I'm not sure that the bank will be ready to share it. I'm a little bit. Perplexed. Well, it's not quite my profile. My task as SberCloud had to share those technological developments with the market, which we made for our own use in the bank. The things and the infrastructure platform things which we've been using for us, for creation of ABS, for applications, for finished client solutions. We are ready to share this. We are ready. And what about using other services? The bank is big enough to afford keeping this infrastructure. We have our own big facility. We started to look at public clouds 4 years ago, but no major provider was at that time in Russia who could have satisfied our requirements. The bank take a decision to do it in-house, and in 4 years we accumulated enough expertise to be able to say that we are able now to satisfy the most the most sophisticated client in terms of the security and safety in the banking service, and these requirements are super high, higher than in other areas.
Thank you. Oleg, could you please share your knowledge regarding what kind of services and trends are popular in Yandex, because Yandex is one of the most advanced cloud providers. So what is your opinion on the future development? Thank you, Zulfia. Thank you for the word advanced. Well, I don't want to boast. That's not in our culture. But the most important thing is that the platform that we have, it's an open kind of platform, and anyone present here right now can go to our website this very second as we speak and test our product. Apart from other companies that are represented here on the panel. And I think it's important, that's very material, because this instant approach, you want to test something, you go ahead and test it. So that's what we do. So that's point number one. Point number two, I don't want to say that we have everything and that we can do anything and everything. We are advanced, yes, but we are trying to understand what problems are there in front of our clients. And maybe we can do something about them. Sometimes we feel that we can, and it's possible to expand the market, because, to be honest, Russian cloud market is not alive, not really. We have a really slow discussion, and I would say that the market is a little slow as well. There are different platforms, there are a lot of opportunities for machine learning. We'll keep investing, we'll keep focusing, we'll keep spending a lot of time on these technologies that are there, because we think that they help small companies to be closer to big companies. And oftentimes we have tech here, tech there, it's a FinTech or tech company. Sometimes it's 15, 10 people in Vladivostok, in Yerevan, in Dubai. And these people can literally explode the industry, and they can create the kind of experience that big players don't want or are unable to create something like that, or because of bureaucracy, or because they want everything right here and right now. And I think that the future is after small corporations or startups. Well, thank you, Oleg. Oleg, I would like to comment about a year ago. You and I discussed clouds and services. And back then, it was already clear that, yes, there's a bright future, and we were saying that something is going to happen in the second quarter, so now it's there. Now it's 1 year later. And I think we need to be honest. We need to, and we must admit that we are a little slow. And machine learning platform, yeah, that's great. But what's missing on the Russian market is that cheap platform to deal with models like Google TPU. Such company can afford this. They can do something like that. It's impossible to, let's say, adopt AI strategies on legislative model and forget about basics. Well, very briefly, in response, Vyacheslav, I agree, yes, we are a little slow. We've entered this market with a huge delay. That's true. It was literally in last minute. But we've been working with big companies Western companies, Russian companies. Yes, oftentimes we feel that we need to run faster. That's true. We have issues related to HR. We're missing quite a number of specialists. It's much easier and simpler with developers, but people who deal with business models, yes, we have a big problem there. But I agree. Okay, David, could you comment on that, please? Because you were talking about portfolios and solutions for big companies. You were talking about the future, and you said that small companies without bureaucracy, with 10, 15 people on board. But a few words about that. Some time ago, I was in Kazan, and I saw that in 48 hours, a team of specialists created full-fledged product. So I actually saw that happening. We've asked them to develop a mobile app, and we've asked for analytics as well. And when we saw what actually happened, that it was possible, we were shocked. But when I shared this with my colleagues, they told me, and actually it was shocking. They said, is it true that they have developed all the documents, they have agreed it with security department, and they have all the permits and approvals? Well, I remember that, and I thought, well, we need to accelerate this somehow. So, David, big companies, solutions for big companies, what about that? Well, I agree with Oleg. Yes, teams must be there, but I disagree that big companies will not be successful. They are transforming, they're changing. 2 years before Yandex, there was a company who launched a digital platform. And that was the team within a big company. But there's one other thing. Our discussion reminds me. You know, tools? We have a set of tools. We have a hammer, screwdriver, you name it. And there are people who can say, okay, screwdriver, screwdriver, screwdriver. You discuss screwdriver, all goes well. But you deviate, and all of a sudden it turns out that screwdriver is not suitable for nails. There are other tools. I mean to say that there are a lot of elements, a lot of requirements. We need to take a different angle. Alexander? What about the hammer? Well, thank you very much. An interesting discussion. Indeed, a different angle. And I think cloud, historically, has been created by most of the companies not for a consumer, but for themselves. So Oleg, as a representative of Yandex.Cloud, thinks as a developer. Yandex is a big company, but you have a lot of small teams who can and capable of developing solutions. David, on the other hand, looks at a cloud with through the eyes of Rostelecom company. The audience is different. Clients are different. I don't think you have as many developers as Yandex has. Well, just because the tools and approaches are a little different. Same holds true for the rest of the world. 3 platforms that are there. 70 or 80% of overlaps, but the tip of the iceberg is probably the same or similar, but consumption models are different, services are a little different, and clients are different, even within one company. Oftentimes, cloud users are different. SA, for example, that's the end consumer, and PS in Sberbank, it's a trend. And clients can choose. If it's an infrastructural service, then there's a team in charge of that, in charge of global infrastructure. So clients are different even within one company. Well, in your case, maybe, yes. No, actually, It's not like that, and we have a division in charge of infrastructure. Okay, thank you very much, Oleg, and I concur. We have representatives of most all companies, but we're missing someone who could say that he needs cloud services. Yes, screwdrivers are great, but as you said, there are other tools. And what kind of product do we want to see? And what does consumer wants? So we need these people here, but they are not here. And Alexander said that people want different services. They can request that. Some clients request a program product, but there are more specialists who said we need virtual machines, we need such and such services, forget about data, we can deal with that on our own. So that's a trend. So for whom are your cloud services? Thank you, Zulfia. Indeed, speaking about small companies, and in our company we have hundreds or maybe thousands already. Yes, it's about services, but oftentimes when we're faced with something, then we understand what's going on. But with big companies, we have a slightly different model. Within one company, there's someone who acts as a sponsor. He interacts with Yandex. He looks or thinks about a partnership with Yandex as if we were partners. So within one company, there's someone who understands, I need to develop this technology, I cannot do this and that on my own, for example. I don't want to reinvent the wheel. I need a strong technological partner. So he starts building relationship. But in-house, they have their own security, user identification, resource models, so on and so forth. We need to integrate, we need to embed ourselves in this company or system so that Yandex.Cloud would be part of their system. So we have corporate standards for that. And we are trying to work together with these corporate teams, but they're very different. It's a little more complex with banks, to be honest. Banks, and I have a feeling that they really want it, but they're afraid of this. They're really afraid. Because sometimes we're trying to be really careful, but they're really shy and they say, we want this solution, maybe we could give it a try, maybe we could test this, but under the radar, very quietly. But as for other industries, it's a little easier. But there must be someone, a sponsor, who understands that partnership is key, that strategic partner is important, is material, or it may be a project manager. And every team gets part of the or piece of a cloud, and they have tools, and they can work with the cloud, and it's about resources and access management. Vyacheslav, any comments? Oleg, I'm the sponsor. Okay. And we need the ideologist as well, who understands. Yes, but you're absolutely right. It simplifies things a great deal. The demand is declining, or you could say it's bottom-up approach, when developers can vote or choose the technology they like. If the product is immature, then no one would want it, and no one wants to or be able to use it, because it's all in the past. The paradigm is different, and it has an impact, an influence on the provider. So in our case, we can talk to people who deals with that day by day, on a daily basis. So APIs and other things, there are many elements. Speaking about the choice, I mean, there are two sides of the mirror. On the one hand, there's a person who makes the decision. On the other hand, you can't ignore basics and the team. Besides this partnership and competition, we've been looking at the Balance platform as our partner. We've been serious about that. For example, auto crediting. But we decided not to work with them because it was 50-50. We had 50% of processes in-house, 50% were not there. but where to invest into? In which 50%?
Although the product is wonderful, we can confirm the same situation with Yandex. Somewhere we're competing, somewhere we're partners, and even at the level of teams dealing with clouds, we have formal cooperation, informal relations, and of course we compete for same developers as all others who are present here. Well, it's very important to make this role model change from company to company, and you should work more, and do your job properly. What basically you do, you work with developers, not only from top to down. David, can you comment? Do you provide services to big and mid-sized companies? And what about the profiles? What is more of demand on your side? What do you expect from those who come for services to you? Where do you see the development of your area? Where do you see development of profiles for specialists on the side of those who come to you for the services? As already mentioned, for the moment, we cooperate with all segments in the market, and the consumption profile differs from segment to segment significantly. For B2C segment, everything is clear. We are going to issue additional cloud services. I'm not going to tell you more about it. You will learn more from news soon. As for big corporates, they have an obvious issue. These are companies who are already for a long time in the Russian market. They have very, very legacy systems. They can do nothing about them. And there was a statement here. It's not clear why colleagues do not move to microservice infrastructure if it comes to ABS. The answer is very easy. The banks who try to change their ABS try a lot, but those who succeeded are much less. And IT directors who survived that, they practically does not exist. We can count them on fingers with one hand. That's why they do this. Is it related to the fact that IT directors are afraid not to survive? Yes, that's also the reason, because it's very complicated projects. One thing when you change one solution for the solution of a mature vendor, the other thing when you go for handmade microservices, and this is a story which bears a lot of risk for an IT director. And how IT director can ground to the management of the bank, why is he doing this? The ideas which come to his mind, they would not be confirmed by the value for the bank. So legacy systems, classical systems based on virtualization, and in many big organizations there are already teams who fine-tune detail synthesis. They split them into microservice infrastructure, and they have very, very different and versatile landscape. They want to manage it from a single console based on single set of rules. This is the main challenge which we are facing now, and the key product which we've put on the market recently and which we're going to develop, this is a cloud platform management system which allows to service bare metal services for legacy systems which are not able to be virtualized. These are virtualization systems, import, replace, not replace, VMware, OpenStack, and to move away from the ideology whether that's server or not and container, it is not so easy. And from the single console for big corporates, now it's the key product which is of a very high demand. Can I ask a question, David? How do you manage to update your management system so quickly with the same speed as the services which are under the management? As for bare metal, it's more or less clear, not so frequently shall we release. As for microservices, there are details, and there we have the story with the updates, which is much more complicated. The same agile team is dealing with this part. They are now under self-management, or no self-payment. No, they will be experiment with holacracy in the full swing, and their goal will be to stay on track with the market. But they have another serious problem. There are no standards for the market in the area of microservices. There is a huge amount of applications, solutions allowing to reach this goal. But again, as already mentioned, we as a cloud provider have to support all key technologies in the area of microservices, because it's not clear what kind of client will come to us and with what requirements. This is much more serious challenge for us than keeping the platform up to date. Are you waiting for standards? Will standards help? I will tell you who will need standards, who will not. Obviously, that innovators do not need innovators, because none of the standards will keep the same pace with the innovator. But if we take all others who just do their business, it's just a ratio of persons to dozens of persons. And for all others, standards are really needed. None Rostelecom nor someone else would create this standard. And here we see the only way out is to establish an ecosystem of cloud providers which would allow to take the guys for whom are doing their job every day very useful. They will be able to provide the standards for them. Can we ask a question to the audience? Who's not the innovator? Who's just doing his or her business? Will you raise a hand? What is your company? Bank of Russia. Your task is to be innovative in regulations and in standards, and this also requires a lot of effort. Well, I hope everyone is innovative in the theory, but in the real life, not always. There's an issue of balance between standards, which would allow to get services based on some standard technologies, and many. I will ask Dmitry to comment later, because coming for services to different authorities, for you it would be interested to keep them in the level of the public services. And first, I'd like to give the floor to Alexander, the discussion about updates and profiles and productive area. Please, could you say a few words? I'm more lucky than Ron that I sit just not in between. It's a very good discussion when two absolutely different approaches come on the same panel. It's a very easy answer to a question: how can we keep up with it? The companies and the solution we're discussing, they are declaring API and they change it very rarely, and they import replaced or imported solutions. They are much more accurate in this regard. We use the similar portal in the big bank. So far it's not in the market, but the story is that not engineers need it. Engineers need API services and unlimited budget, if possible. The people who want a portal, they are normally owners of business processes or business systems, and they are looking after costs and expenses. And in the real life, the use cases of these tools are absolutely different. And my opinion is that it's hard, but it's cool to bring everything in one console, but it is not needed. All APIs should be described, and it would be good to make them as stable as possible and don't change, and to give a monitoring tool for costs or utilization and efficiency of tool use, whatever would it be, a saw or a screwdriver or a hammer. It should be clear for the business owner, and in this case we see how business would try to go cloud, both on top and on the bottom. Dmitry, could you say a few words? What do you expect from Open API? If you allow, I'd like to say a few words about standards. I don't believe that such standards would appear, because this art of programming, art of engineers, to find a proper balance between very strongly fragmented microservices and not supported big projects, where it is very hard to understand what is the point, and such standards will never appear. This is my opinion. This is first. You just killed the proposal of David and the team of his company. If there are good engineers, they will create products and standards in-house, and they will allow to implement new services quite quickly, update old services. Well, and we are all moving to the towards optimization, and we want to make decisions very quickly, and the cloud would be one of the tools of very quick deployment of new services and new products. We just need to have one tool for that. Vyacheslav, meanwhile, could you tell us how you managed to survive as IT director the updating of the core systems, because as it was told, no one survives after that. Well, I'm in the process, by the way. There's no scary thing, and this is not my problem that to take one and replace it with different thing. The problem is that there's nothing to be replaced for, and I need to operate with investors' money to make a product which we really need, and nevertheless we are doing it, and we're doing because the current product of core banking are not suitable for working under the loads which are now in the world. These tools were produced in the era when we had package exchange and file exchange, and they are initially designed not as the interaction of system goes now. So we have to deal with this now. What will we have as a result? Let's see. Maybe then we will bring a product to the market and we will become a technological provider, which, by the way, happens in adjacent areas in a very unexpected thing. Today we saw biometric systems. Well, not many people know that our technology is used in Rostelecom back and voice recognition. We work here as a technological partner, and the fact that recently we launched our own cloud service on voice recognition, voice synthesis. It has nothing to do with the banking industry or financial industry, but nevertheless we have contracts which pay money to us for this service, and this mix. Where does it come from? We started to deal with not because we are the smartest, but because we were not satisfied with what we could get from the market, and so we invested in it. I hope that by investing in such classical banking technologies would give us some successful result, and we may offer it to the market afterwards. Thank you, Vyacheslav. Next year, I hope we meet in Philopolis. You tell us what was done, We will hope you will survive for the next year. I have one question concerning a very special and topic. Sometimes in using cloud services, someone asks, shall we use this? We are ready to pay for something and see how it works. But every time there is an issue of information security. And the question is, when you go beyond the services which require to go for a radar, the question is, what kind of services you see when you provide it in cloud along with information security, and how can you guarantee that there are profile on the part of the cloud service provider when you have to be sure that your data will not go away? This is the question which pops up every time. And of course, a very important question to be discussed. There is tarification, and I will ask David to comment. As soon as you come to the point that you provide a service which is placed on cloud, you provide certain level of SLA on your side, then you depend on the provider from whom you get this service. And as soon as you want very adequate and recurrent time interval for incident handling, then you expect the answer. But you don't have, the provider doesn't have such a responsibility level, because this is internal customer, but as soon as you ask for the same, the price for the contract will grow by several times. So the question of optimization, of cloud service optimization, is not relevant at once. First Oleg, then Dmitry, then Alexander.
Well, first SLA. Okay, it's all clear about SLA. You know, there's Casco, there's Osago. The difference is, I don't know, 5,000 and 150,000. So in one case, you can crash and you'll be paid for it. But it'll cost you, I don't know, 7 or 8% of the price of the car per year. All clear, right? It's evident. Clouds, actual clouds, they give you an opportunity to create the kind of system that is using the tools that exist or are available in the cloud. Yandex is a taxi service, and you can look for a suitable car, but there's nothing special. There are no rules that make it available, but there must be available. For example, something's wrong with the server or data center, the users should not notice it. Our goal is to provide the tools that could keep the system alive. But as for financial accountability, I mean, virtually, in virtual world, we may be talking about millions and some things may not be available. We cannot be held accountable for that. And actually, there's a security audit. It's ongoing. It's international. It's about risk management. It's not about standards. I'm part of this process, and I think it's right, because what they're doing is they're looking at how the cloud provider is dealing with these issues. When we were thinking about security, first of all, we wanted all our components. We have hundreds of developers, and we have a lot of services, so security was there by default. We create virtual machines, we have voice recognition services, as in Tinkoff, you name it. And security is everywhere, and that's very material. Security by default, by design, and compliance with Russian and global standards, that's what we decided to go for. Okay, thank you very much. David? Well, actually, sometimes we do have to take financial risks. We've been working long enough in this sector, so as a provider dealing with corporate segment and with the government, we accept these risks and we know how to deal with them, we know how to work with them. As for the price, the cost, no one is confused, and our clients who work with us, they know that a good service with good SLA, and it requires investments and costs on our part and costs on their part. So I don't think there's anyone who's shocked by that. The other question is, how do we manage these costs? A client comes, we can discuss. I mentioned consulting earlier today, and usually major projects, cloud projects, they're not happening like that. The bank comes, pays the money for the cloud, and starts using it right away, because there are plenty of questions and issues. For example, is information security there? And actually, it's a whole world, and the services that we are providing, dozens. And that's where we start working with the corporate clients. We're trying to understand what they want. We prepare a profile of a client. What do they need? It's not just simple sales. Rarely it happens. But as a rule, it's joint work, us and the client. And then we discuss the requirements, access, the architecture, SLA, and whatever we're offering. David, I have a question. Is it true that you actually can do this if, for example, in case of downtime, a the client asks you to pay for it, I mean, at a different rate, do you meet their requirements? And actually, I'm not the one who you should be asking this question. I mean, it's about risks and the balance and the costs. Right, on the one hand, cloud services are very attractive because you can optimize infrastructure costs. On the other hand, if you want SLA, you're going to pay for something else. Okay, sorry to interrupt you. You said that in Yandex.Cloud, banks don't like it, they're afraid. But actually, we're working with quite a number of banks, VTB, Gazprom, Открытие Bank. I agree, although 3 years ago it was kind of difficult to work with banks. And it was because of the providers. They didn't know how to work with security in banks. But the providers have learned, they know how. And now they are successfully working together with security. And colleagues from SberBank, what can you say? Actually, everything is great. We have our very strong security function and cyber security department. And we are working very closely with subsidiaries that we have. And we have SberCloud, and actually one of the divisions is in charge of communication only. And the technology that security is actually choosing, they need to look at advantages. But our path is not that simple. Apparently, security people are really straightforward. Well, yes, but there are a lot of good specialists and they know how to deal with these problems.
There's such a thing as multi-cloud. That's why no one is going to choose between different providers. There will be multiple providers. And the European regulator, for instance, in the nearest future will make sure that the company will not, or a bank may not have the hosting from one provider. They would have to have hosting from several banks. And in that case, the level of responsibility, where the amount, scope of the responsibility would be regulated much easier. So don't have to argue whose security is better.
Well, Michael Dell, that I quoted earlier today, cloud is part of IT, right? De facto. So it's the same. It's like trying to punish IT specialists for a mistake that he'd made. I mean, a joint responsibility, right? We have multi-cloud and de facto. It's teamwork. 100%, yes. Our clients don't care who's to blame, who fault that is. It's our responsibility. No matter what, we are in charge because we are providing this service to end consumers. Okay, any more comments, Dmitry? You wanted to say something? Yes, I just wanted to say something about SLA. Well, in our companies, we don't have hundreds of clients, and our clients are banks. So SLA to us, and security requirements, that's super critical. We're taking this very seriously. And if something happens, if there's downtime, God forbid, leak, and we may lose all the clients. I mean, in this case, our responsibility is much more serious than our colleagues have. Well, maybe, perhaps, yes, maybe, judging from what you've said before.
Is there anybody else willing to comment? I'd like to add an interesting thing. Colleagues, when we talk about services when it is an automated system, any DIS or SIS client. It's at the same time the cost of SLA is skyrocketing, and we're looking at the structure. A modern application should have a cloud-native, cloud-ready application that could migrate physically between data centers, and the same thing is about Amazon, which is being mentioned many times, and they can just turn off data center without any preliminary warning, and any application should be developed in such a way that it would be able to work not on a particular data center, but it would so that it would be flexible and could be upscaled. When we talk about modern instruments, the cutting-edge technology instruments, and we're talking about the right or the wrong instrument, the wrong tools for wrong purposes. If you talk about clouds, it's a great tool. Let's learn how to use it by 100%, not by 2%. Amazon doesn't allow us to use SLA for one virtual machine. It doesn't allow us. Only for a group of virtual machines located at desks of data centers. We have actually gone beyond our time frame. But the topic that Alexander has mentioned, let's use this technology up to 100%. Let's leave the discussion up to the next year's meeting. Let's write it down. Let's remember to talk about it. And if we talk about the things that we mentioned here, there is room for growth and for development. And there are trends to follow. When I was invited to be moderating this session, I thought at first that it would be a boring one, but because everybody knows what cloud technology is all about. But obviously, cloud technology can be used for upscaling and developing startups very quickly, instead of going through regular traditional banks. So the topic of this session was a very interesting one, an exciting one. And the topic was relevant to all of us who participated in this discussion. Thank you for the panel members, and thank you to Oleg for a great presentation. And you surprised us when you told us that the future belongs to smaller teams of 10 to 15 people, and those who are sitting, sharing this panel with me. Thank you very much. There are things to talk about, and the topic was why does FinTech need the cloud, and how to use that potential to 100% fully. If we survive this transition with Vyacheslav, and we will come back here next year. Thank you all for participating. People are eager to go to the beach and to have dinner. Thank you. Thank you all.